Done. Thank you for that.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to make a start. Please forgive all the people who come into the room after we've started, but for those of you who are on time, we do want to make sure that you get your full hour of Supersonic Sudoku. There's a money-back guarantee today, which is that by the end of this session, you will be able to do the puzzle that's on your chair blindfolded. And we'll give you double your money back if you can't do that by the end of the session. Now, it's also a very special occasion because A, it's the last public lecture for this year. B, Burkhard Post is going to go and spend the next 6 months in Germany, which is actually because he was born a Liverpudlian. And in order to get his fake German accent, he has to live in Germany every now and then just to get it back. You wouldn't believe it, but he really is a Liverpudlian. But it's also for the first time in history that I'm actually able to say to you, please welcome to the stage Associate Professor Burkhard Polster.
All right, now, it works, okay. So thanks for coming. And yeah, it's the last of our lectures this year. We're probably going to be back next year, so after I'm back. And today's presentation is about Sudoku. It's actually our 11th year. It's a bit of a miracle that we haven't done Sudoku yet. Yeah, last year we did Rubik's Cube and, well, so we thought it was too. First thing is anybody here who's never done a Sudoku? Anybody who's never done a Sudoku? All right, so I better tell you what a Sudoku is. All right, here we go. Is anybody here who's never been to these talks? All right, here we go. Something to look forward to. Okay, Sudoku. So that's a Sudoku puzzle, and that's a solution to a Sudoku puzzle. So what you've got here is a 9 × 9 grid, and it's subdivided into 9 boxes, and you want to fill them in with the digits 1 to 9, and you want to fill them in such that in every of the rows you see all the digits, in every one of the columns you see all the digits, but then additionally you also want to make sure that every single one of the 9 boxes has 9 digits. Okay, and eventually you get this. Right? So this is actually the solved state of this one. And when people set up these puzzles, they actually make sure that there's only one way to complete the puzzle. So that's a kind of incomplete grid. Right? Now you can imagine maybe there's 2 or 3 different ways in which you can fill in the empty boxes so that the whole thing is satisfied. But actually, in a good Sudoku puzzle, there should only be one way in which you can complete it. So that's the basic rule. It's really quite straightforward. Okay, now just want to tell you a little bit about how this talk came about, and also a little bit of an explanation why it took us 11 years to do it. I don't know, has anybody seen this documentary? They had it on ABC TV last year. It was about the Australian delegation at the 2008 Sudoku World Championships. Anybody seen that? All right. So these are the guys with the world champion here. These are the numbats. Now what's really special about them is that most of them didn't know, they hadn't solved a single Sudoku when they signed up for the World Championship. And actually, this documentary, you see one of them solve his first Sudoku on the plane to India. Right? So the expectations weren't very high. And indeed, they came 32nd out of 32 teams. But I think they all had a lot of fun. Well, they got to represent Australia, right? So, amazing. They was actually part of a rugby team. So they usually play rugby, they don't do Sudoku. So now comes the explanation why it took us 11 years to do this talk, because I had never done a Sudoku myself. Well, I tried one once and I got bored halfway through, right? I mean, my job is to do puzzles all day long, and actually the puzzles I do are a little bit more interesting than Sudoku, so. Anyway, so I announced this talk about Sudoku without ever having done a Sudoku. It's pretty brave, but it's kind of in line with the numbers there. And I did my first one 4 weeks ago, but I'm good now, all right. So here we go. Okay, so let's just first figure out how would you actually build one of these things. Right? So let's not solve it, let's build one. So we want basically this side here. Right? We want to, you want to set up a Sudoku puzzle. So first of all, what you have to do is you have to make up a grid filled with digits, so that in every row you see all the digits, in every column you see all the digits, in every box you see all the digits. How hard is that? Right, so once you've got that, you need to take away a couple and give this to your friends as a puzzle. So how hard is that? So let's just make up. Let's worry about the boxes first, okay? So we'll only worry about putting the digits in so that the lines are okay, the rows are okay, the columns are okay. So what would you do? I mean, straightforward, let's just put in the digits. 1, 2, 3. So there's all of them in there. The next thing you might want to try is just shift things around a bit. So basically I just shift the first row over, and then the 9 falls out, so put it back in here, and you do this again and again and again. And that actually gives you a grid filled with digits. Every column has all the digits, every row has all the digits. It's pretty clear from what we did that this is okay for the rows. And if you look at the columns actually from the back, the same sort of principle seems to work here. So it's actually works. So the first thing that kind of comes to your mind works. So whenever you've got something like this happening, if it's really easy to put something like this together, it probably means that there's a lot of these things. And there's really a lot of these things. So if you count them, it's this many. So there's this many different ways in which you can put digits from 1 to 9 into this grid, fill it up so that all the rows and all the columns. Okay. Now, if you have a look at this box here, in a real Sudoku puzzle, there should only be one of each digit in here, but you see there's a 4 and a 4 and a 4. So that also means that, like, for example, a couple of others are missing. The 1 is missing, and the 9 is missing. So that's not something you can use for a Sudoku puzzle. So how hard is it to get this extra requirement in? Well, also not very hard. And I've just put one together for you. And again, I kind of start with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And then I've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. The 4, 5, 6 kind of gets repeated here. The 7, 8, 9 gets repeated here. The 1, 2, 3 gets repeated here. And you shuffle things around. And I mean, you can just try this at home and see, from scratch, without looking at anything, how hard is it to actually fill in a grid like this from nothing, right? So this is maybe not something that you've tried before, but just give it a try. It's actually not very hard. So how many different ways are there? Still quite a few. Okay, well, and then maybe you want to do all of them, right? Maybe you want to do all of them. At the moment it looks pretty daunting. I probably won't be able to do that. But, well, I mean, just think of this one here. What if we replace all the 1s by 2s and all the 2s by 1s? The sort of puzzle that you get is not really different from the one that you're looking at here. So maybe you don't want to consider these two different squares as different. And also, if I just take this whole row here, this whole column, and swap it with the other column, I mean, there's nothing really terribly different here. So if we consider all squares that you can get from one particular one, from making these kind of basic rearrangements, then the numbers actually come down quite a bit. So we only have that many left, and we've only got this many essentially different Sudoku squares. So let's have a look. So maybe you want to do one Sudoku. You want to do one Sudoku corresponds to one of those possibilities every day of your life. Say you get 80 years old. Will you be able to do all of them? What do you think? No. What about you do one every minute? Will you be able to do them? One every minute of your life, 80 years. No, sorry. But if you do one every second, you'll do it. Okay, so you just got to get really fast at doing these things. Okay. Okay, so now I've got all of them. Now let's take some out. Wipe out some of these digits, and I give you this one here. And you want to solve it. Who can solve this Sudoku? What would it? Is it 2? All right. Okay, very good. Is there 2 ways in which you can complete this Sudoku? Is there 2 ways? Can you put in any other digits here? No, you can't, right? It's completely pinned down. You can just look at this block here. All the digits are here except for the 2. So the 2 has to go in there. You can also have looked at the column here. The only digit that's missing is the 2, so the 2 has to go there. So any Sudoku puzzle like this has a unique solution. You take out 1, solution. What if I take out 2? Is it always guaranteed that you have 1 solution? What do you think? Yes, no? Yes. In fact, even 3. You can take out any 3, that will always guarantee you a unique solution. I just took out a couple of random ones. So like this one here is pinned down by this block. This one here is pinned down by this column. This one here is pinned down by this column. If anybody gives you a Sudoku puzzle where 3 are missing, you know there's only one way of completing it. Now with 4, you can actually make up things that have 2 solutions. I'll just show you one. So here, one solution is 2882. And can you see another solution? Can you see another solution? Can you do this in a different way? Yeah, so somebody's got it. So you basically just swap them around, and you'll actually see this also solves it. So that particular puzzle here, that's not a good Sudoku, right? So you've got to be a bit careful when you kind of wipe out your numbers as a Sudoku person who sets these things in the newspapers, that you don't get anything like this happening. Okay. Okay, so how many can we take out to guarantee that there's always 1? That's a pretty extreme example. So there's only 17 digits left over in here. So 17 digits, and still there's only one way to fill this in to make it into a valid Sudoku grid. So 17. Can you do it with 16? What do you think? Can you do it with 16? Can you do it with, well, you can kind of go from the back bottom. If I just put one number in, maybe not, 2 or 3, right? So there will be a number where you can't go any better. Now, is 17 that number? Or can you still do it with 16? Is there any way of filling in 16 numbers in here so that you get something unique back? What do you think? Well, the answer is nobody knows. Right? So I mean, they've actually been looking for this. Nobody knows. Right? So 17 seems to be good enough. There's actually thousands of examples like this with 17, but nobody's been able to find one with 16. 17. So why is this ninja getting so angry? Right? I mean, you have to kind of go frame by frame in this movie clip. And I reconstructed the Sudoku puzzle as he's doing. He has 23 filled in here. 23 filled in here. And if you think about it, it's actually a very hard one. You find there's a solution. The problem with this thing is there's actually 54 different solutions. So maybe that's why you got so angry, right? It's not a proper Sudoku puzzle. All right. Anyway, let's just solve one. Solve one. So this is a fairly easy one. Let's just do it together. So just in case you haven't done this for a while, You can now start guessing where kind of in your head, kind of race ahead. So there's a few missing, there's a few ones missing, for example. So let's just look for the ones that are missing here. And let's just look for them in the different blocks. So I want to know, there's one missing in that block up here. Where's the one? Okay, so, oh, there's somebody that was really fast. But it's in the center? What do you think? In the center? Okay, some really good solvers. Okay, what's your name? Blake? Blake, how old are you? How many sudoku puzzles have you done? Haven't counted. Probably more than me, right? Okay, so what do you do with this one? Well, you wouldn't find ones. There's lots of ones in here. And let's just look at some of these. So there's the one here. So since there's the one up there, what that means is there can't be any other one in that first row. So we can basically get rid of that first row. And what that means in particular is there can't be any one here. Right? Then we've got a one here. We can cancel out this one, so there can't be any one here. And then we've got another one down here. And that means there can't be anything else in this column here. So there must be, the one must be here. So there's kind of basic techniques called cross-hatching. Okay, so we've got a one here, we've got a one here, we've got a one here. We want the one down here. So where's the one down there? Blake? Middle bottom. Okay, middle bottom. Let's have a look at this. We've got a one here that gets rid of, can't be any ones here. We've got a one there that gets rid of this one here. And we've got a one there and that gets rid of that one here. And Blake's right again. Very good. Okay, now, who can beat Blake for the next one, okay? Get ready, get ready, get ready. We're going to do this one. Where is it going to be? I think we've got somebody, okay, well, Blake probably got about left middle, very good. Blake's got it too, and what's your name? Daniel, how many have you done? All right, you knew infinitely many, right? He's done all of them, right? Okay, so we've got the one, cancel out this thing, and that one here, that one, and that actually does it already here. So it's got to be here, it's got to be here. And now the last one, okay, all getting ready? All getting ready? Last one? Shall we do here? Middle, somebody's got it already. So the sudoku masters are over here. But he's older. He's older. He's. No, I don't count. You don't count. Yeah. Okay, let's do a little bit more advanced. Where's the one in here? Where's the one in here? Just based on the information that I've given you, I've gotten rid of stuff. The middle bottom. Does everybody see that? Maybe. It's a bit trickier. It's a bit trickier. Let's show you what happens. Obviously, we have to somehow do something with this one. Well, that gets rid of this. But how can we exclude those? So Blake says it's down here. Okay, for that we have to look over on this other side here. So have a look at this side. So basically the one can't be here. We have to have a one in this one here, right? So the one can't be here. It's definitely not here because that's already filled in. So the one has to be up here. It's this one or that one. We don't really care which one. But we know the one is in here, so that means it can't be here and there because there's already a one in this row. Right? So that gives you a one down here. So and then a final one. Where's the one? Okay. Well, let everybody else catch up. Middle, okay. So let's just see what all the ones do first that we see here. This one gets rid of this one gets rid of that column and that one. Well, that one tells us that one can't be here in this particular block. So the one must be here or there. That means that row is taken care of in terms of ones, and that leaves us with this block. So, okay, so that's kind of basic techniques, right? So now you're getting ready for your world championship, right? So just keep on listening, right? We'll see. Okay, now this gets you so far. These kind of basic things, they get you so far, but eventually things get kind of complicated. And then you have to know one more technique, and this is also something that you kind of think of the first time you try this puzzle. you've got to be systematic about things, right? So if you kind of just scan around and do this cross-hatching, you don't get any further. For example, with this just 17 digits being there, right? There might not be enough information to get anything else out. In which case, what you do is, maybe you want to find out what are the possible entries here, right? Then what you do is, you look at the row here, and there's already 8 here, so there can't be any 8 in this position, there can't be any 2, there can't be any 4, there can't be any 5, there can't be any 9, there can't be any 6. Now, have a look at the column here. There can't be any 5 or 8, but we've already taken care of those. And now it's also inside a block. In that block is a 1 and 3 and 4 and 5, so there can't be another 1, 3, 4 and 5. So 1 and 3 we can also get rid of. And then the only possibility that stays over is a 7. So what that means, of course, that you can put the 7 in here, because there's always a possibility. Now you can do this sort of analysis for every single one of the blank spots, and I'll just do this for you. So that gives you a complete overview of what's possible here. So which one can we fill in now? Which one can we fill in? So we can fill in all the ones that have only one number in it, just like this one here, right? So there's the 7 here, and there's the 1 over there, and there's a 7 up here. So there's actually quite a few that you can fill in now, after you've done this. Of course, it takes ages, right, to do this, unless you're really good. Like the experts, they just look here, and they don't take like a second to tell you what's in here, right? So they can just scan this way, that way, and the block in kind of one glance, right? You just look at it, and you know what can be there. Okay, but there's actually a couple of hidden ones here too. So I'll just highlight some. So there's, for example, for some strange reason, I can conclude that there can only be a 4 here. And there's a kind of bit of a hint here. It has something to do with the column. Can anybody see why there can only be a 4 here? That's right. So if you actually look up the column here, so here the possibles are 1 and 5, here the possibles are 8, 1, 3, 5, 8, 1, 3, and here 1, 3, 4, 8. So the only one that has a possibility 4 is actually this one here, none of the other ones. There has to be a 4 somewhere, so it's got to be here. So although there's lots of different possibilities here just from our, just looking at columns and rows and stuff, there's only one possibility here. So that's called a hidden single. So these are called naked singles, and these are called hidden singles. There's another one up here. If you look in this box, you can see that the only 9 that's here, the only 9 that's possible is here. Of course, you could also get it through cross-hatching. You're just kind of going up here and there. Okay, so I filled them in, and now, of course, since there's stuff filled in, the whole grid changes. So if you do an analysis for this one here now, let's see, or for this one here, there couldn't be a 4 anymore, right? The 4 goes away because you just filled in the 4 here. So you have to do the analysis again for the whole grid, and then it changes, right? So possibilities go away. And now you look for naked singles again, get these ones here, fill them in. That changes the whole pattern of possibilities. You fill in the naked singles, you do the analysis again, fill in the naked singles, and you keep on going like this, and that solves this puzzle. So it's purely mechanical, really, purely mechanical. But again, this doesn't work all the time, right? I mean, the harder these puzzles get, the less of these methods will actually get you all the way. Right? So I'll just show you something else that you can get out of these sort of patterns, and you tell me what you can deduce from this, okay? So I've just highlighted a row here. There's 2 numbers filled in and possibilities here. And somehow I say, by looking at these 2 highlighted squares, you can eliminate some more possibilities. So what other possibilities can you get rid of here? So anybody? Yell it out, yell it out. Yeah? So, there's another sudoku master, what's your name? Robin? Okay, Robin says we can take out all the other 9s and 8s in this column. Why is that? Well, if you look at this particular square here, There's only going to be an 8 or 9 here. There's no other possibilities, right? The same over here. It's got exactly the same entries. So if there's an 8 here, what's going to go in there? A 9. If there's an 8 here, what's going to go in there? The 9. There's only those two numbers are fixed to those two squares, right? So 8 and 9 are taken care of. They can't be anywhere else, right? 8 here forces 9 there, 9 here forces 8 here. So what that means is that all the other 8s and 9s that you see here, you can take away. And that reduces the number of possibilities. Right? So for example, that one all of a sudden turns into a certain bet that's a 6, right? You can put in a 6. Okay, here's another one. It's kind of similar. Again, I say, just look at this box and that box and draw some conclusion. What conclusion can you draw from this? The 8 and 9 is in no other square. It's definitely not in any other square. It's not there. So what I want is, I want you to tell me which of the other numbers that you see here can I cancel out? Which of the other numbers? Yeah? I can get rid of the 3 here. Or can I get rid of the 3 here? In the purple box? In the purple box, that's right. So if you think about it, the 8 and the 9 are only in the purple boxes this time. They're only in the purple boxes. They're nowhere else. Right? So that means they're, again, fixed to the purple boxes. 8 and 9 has to be here. If the 8 is here, the 9 is here, the 9 is here, the 8 is here. Slightly different from there, but the conclusion this time is that we can get rid of this 3. The 3 is not possible, right? So you get rid of it, and you get everything out of it. Okay, there's zillions of these things that are not absolutely obvious, right? And the sudoku masters, actually, they have to do this. Actually, you know, the cross-hatching, this is the basic stuff. You've got these singles, hidden singles. We've just had naked pairs and naked hidden pairs. There's lots more. So this is one that you should really explore if you're into this sort of stuff. What Sudoku Wiki has tried to do is implement how a real person solves a Sudoku puzzle. Okay? So, for example, you go and type in your favorite Sudoku puzzle like this, and then it tries to mimic what a real person would do. Right? So it starts by looking at the most basic technique that you can think of, and checks the whole grid, and maybe highlights some singles. And then it checks for pairs and triples, and then it gets more complicated. So stuff that I haven't shown you yet. So this is all different sorts of techniques, different sorts of ways of concluding, of whittling down the possibilities. And the people who are really good at this, they can do all of this. Okay? They can do all of this. And I'll just show you one of those things in action. But before that, let's just have a look at something that I announced in the blurb. So let's have a look what an X-wing does. So here's an X-wing. It's an X-wing pattern. Where's the X? Well, the X is here, right? That's the X. Okay? And what I want you to do is, I want you to focus on the 6's in here. So there's a 6 here, there's a 6 here, there's a 6 here, there's a 6 here. There's no other 6 in this row. There's no other 6 in that row. What sort of conclusion can you draw from this? Well, this gets more complicated because you're kind of looking with the basic tricks. You're always focusing on the features that are already kind of in the definition. Kind of on a row, you're focusing on a column, you're focusing on boxes. Now, in this case, you're kind of focusing on the whole grid. You're all of a sudden seeing, 6, 6, 6, 6. You have to kind of see this, right? I mean, how do you look for something like this? It's a lot more complicated than what we've done so far. But now the conclusion here is, well, if the 6 is here, the 6 has to be here or it has to be there, right? In this row, because there's no other 6's here, the 6 has to be here or it has to be here. If the 6 is here, it can't be there. But if it's not there, it's here. So there's a 6 here, there's a 6 here. So in those two columns, there must be 6's. So there can't be any other columns in those 6's. You can take those 6's out as possibilities. Same conclusion. If the 6 is here, the 6 can't be there. But if the 6 is not here, it must be there. So again, 6 occurs in that column, 6 occurs in that column, all the other 6s you can take away. So that's an X-wing move, and it's X-wing move. And that's something even more complicated. All of a sudden you see like lots of things, like a 9 times 9 grid, basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, whatever, count. I'm a mathematician, I can't count. All right, so here's about the 5s, right? So it's about the 5. There's a 5, 5, 5, 5. And basically the conclusions you can draw, if there's a 5 here, then there's no 5 there, which means there's a 5 there, which means there's no 5 there. And you kind of argue around the corner, and what you get in the end is that there's definitely 5s in these columns where the green bits are, and that means that you can take this 5 out. So it gets very, very complicated, but it's a valid way of drawing conclusions, right? And people who are really good at this sort of stuff, they actually have to be able to do this. Okay, so let's have a look at one of those things in practice here. Let's solve this sudoku puzzle here. So I've pre-recorded this. So every time you have a click, it goes through one of those possibilities. So it shows so naked pairs, for example. It shows a naked pair. So what you have to focus on is this block here. And actually the naked pair is this 3, 6 and that 3, 6. I've shown you this before. What that means is the 3 and the 6 have to be here in those two. So there can't be any other 3 6s here, which means you can get rid of this 3, 6 and this 3, 6. Right? So it's a naked pair, 3, 6, 3, 6. Whether it's in a row or in a column or in a block, whenever you have a pair like this, it excludes everything else that has the same numbers in it. Right? Okay, so program gets rid of that one. And keeps on going, goes through the possibilities here, and can't find anything. Eventually it finds an X-wing. Okay, so it says check all the other things that are here. Some of them I have talked about, some of them I haven't. Eventually it gets to this point. And that's what a real sudoku master will do. They first go for the simple stuff, and then go harder and harder to get information out. Right? Eventually you get to the X-wing, and here it's the same sort of pattern again, but 6s here. 6 here, 6 there, 6 there, no other 6 in this row, no other 6 in that row, which means either this or that has to be the 6, or this or that has to be the 6. So no other 6s in this column, no other 6s in that column. Wherever you see another 6, you can get rid of the 6 as a possibility. And it does that. And there's something more complicated, which I'm not going to talk about. And now it gets very easy towards the end, and you all know that, right? Towards the end of a sudoku puzzle, you can just kind of fill in as fast as you can go. So it's all done. Now I want to show you one that's actually been cooked up by a real specialist to make it as hard as possible for a sudoku person. So we'll just do that. So this is one, in 2006, somebody tried to make it as hard as possible for people, right? And if you feed this into the program will now show you what a sudoku master would have to do here, and would do, right? So it goes through all these possibilities, all these different ways of kind of getting to conclusion, whittling down possibilities, and it's just, get it going, so it clicks. So it checks for stuff. So it doesn't find anything really complicated here, and tries again, and runs out of things to do. So this is where even the best people would run out of things to do. Actually, would get stuck at this stage. And you can see there's still a lot of scope here for, doing, but this thing has got a unique solution, right? But among the things that people would try, you would run out of things to do. So what do you do next? If you come up with something like this, you have to guess. So what you do is, you just check, is there any place where there's not very few possibilities? So for example, here's a 3 and a 4. So it's going to be either a 3 or a 4. So we'll just put in the 3, right? We'll just put in a 3 and then just hit it again and do all the possible conclusions we can get from that. And maybe that will get us somewhere, right? But of course it could also get us into trouble, right? If it gets us into trouble, that means that the 3 was not the right guess. So we have to rub out all the stuff that we've done to this point and put in a 4 here, right? Okay, then you do everything again. And of course, it might get you through, it might not. You might still be stuck with something horrible like this, then you maybe go to another field and guess do another 2 maybe somewhere. No, or there's another 2 up there, so maybe we guess the 4 there and go as far as we go. Maybe we have to do a couple of guesses, right? And then backtrack and go forward and backwards. Eventually you'll be able to solve the grid, but it may take forever, right? Not forever, but close to forever. And in fact, that's what the computers do. The computers would never do this. Right? If you have a computer solver at home, the computer solver doesn't use kind of logical rules as such, as a human would do. It would just kind of do this kind of search, right? So it just generates this, and then just takes the first bit here and guesses 2 and see how far it gets with this, then it guesses something else, gets something else, kind of backtracks forwards, backwards. I mean, computers don't have to worry about rubbing out things, so that's okay, right? All right. So anyway, so you guess. Now the question is anything like this has anything to do with mathematics? Not really. So this is also a sudoku puzzle solved, right? So this time you don't do it with numbers, so there's no numbers left, right? No numbers left. You do it with colors, right? So you basically play sudoku with color pencils. They've got these sort of colors, right? And every color has to be represented in every column, in every row, in every block. So you can also do sudoku with colors. But I mean, I've shown you a couple of things like enumerating how many possibilities there are. That's a bit of mathematics. There's more. So these things actually didn't come up first in the context of sudokus. They've been considered much earlier, and I just want to talk a little bit about that. And it's these kind of simplified sudoku puzzles that people got interested in quite a while ago. This is called a Latin square. So again, what you want is every color in this case, in every single one of the columns, every color in every single one of the rows. Yes, lots of them. It's lots more than sudoku puzzles. So not very interesting, completely trivial to make one up. But there's actually some twists to them that are very, very interesting from a mathematician's point of view. I'll just tell you about this. So it goes back to a really famous mathematician, Leonhard Euler, and he asked a puzzle to the world. It's a puzzle about some officers and regiments. This is quite a mouthful, so we'll just go through it slowly. So there's 6 different regiments. Okay, 6 different regiments. The regiment number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in every regiment you have 6 different officers. Maybe there's a general and there's a lieutenant and there's something else. 6 different kind of ranks, right? So in total we've got 36 officers. So every regiment is represented by 6 officers. And we want to arrange them in a square formation that each row and column contains 1 officer of each rank in 1 of each regiment. I mean, it's still pretty hard. I mean, nobody would start with 6, so let's just make it easier and just say 3. Right? So 3. So we've got a regiment. Regiment number 1. Regiment number 2. Regiment number 3. And then they've got 3 different kind of officers: general, lieutenant, and whatever, sergeant or something. They've got a general, a lieutenant, and a sergeant. So there's the sergeant from regiment number 1. There's the lieutenant from regiment number 2, and there's the general from regiment number 2. And in regiment number 2, same sort of thing, right? So regiment number 2 has this sort of general officer, this sort of officer, and that sort of officer. So that's 9 different officers, okay? 9 different officers. Now what we want is, we want to rearrange these 9 officers in a special way, and I'll just show you, it actually works in this case. You arrange them like this. And they can check, for example, for the regiments, 1, 2, 3, 1 row, okay? 2, 3, 1, okay, everybody's there. Everybody's there. Also in terms of the rows, it all works out. You can check for the red bits, it also works out. So 1, 2, 3, so all 3 are there. 2, 1, 3, all 3 are there. 2, 3, 1, and the other way around. So this is check that we've got all the officers. So there's that officer, there's this officer, so keep on going. So all the officers on this side are represented on the other side, but we've rearranged them in a very special way. Okay, now when you look at this in a slightly different way, let's just take out the red bits, what you actually get. Where you get one of those kind of sudoku squares. Right? And what you get when you just look at the red bits, you get another sudoku square. Okay, so what this Euler is really asking for is two of those squares that fit together in a very special way. Right? So basically, one square, another square, you put them one on top of each other, and then you see all possible combinations, you know, all of those possible number combinations exactly once. And that's something very special, and that's something that's, you know, pretty hard to do. So if I make up an arbitrary sudoku square, it's not even clear whether you can find a second one that meshes together with the first one like this. Anyway, so he played this puzzle, and here's his solution. And that's also where the name Latin square comes from, because he didn't play with numbers. He played with Roman and Greek letters. Right? So there's a Greek letter square, and there's a Roman letter square. They mesh together like this to give all possible combinations. Okay. Okay, so he played maybe puzzle for 3, and then he's really interested in 6. Well, he's really interested in all possibilities. So let's play it with 2 regiments and 2 ranks. Okay. So what we have to make up is 2 squares. But actually with 2 there's only 2 possible squares to start with. There's this square and there's that square. There's no more. So I mean, if there were a possibility of doing this kind of game with 2 regiments and 2 offices, those 2 squares would have to be in the solution. But they're not, right? When you superimpose them, you've got 2, 1 here, but you've also got 2, 1 there. So that kind of occurs twice. This doesn't work, right? This doesn't work. Now, the next one we try is 4 offices, 4 regiments. Can you make two pairs like this? No, yes you can. With 5, you can. With 6, you can actually not. So the puzzle cannot be done. So it doesn't work. And then your Euler kind of goes on and says, well, 7 I can do, and 8 I can do, and 9 I can do, and 10 he didn't know. And 11 he somehow figured out how to do, 12 he figured out, 13, 14 he couldn't do, 15 and 16 he could do. It kind of goes on, you kind of got a pattern happening here. Right? So there's nothing here, there's a question mark, there's a question mark there. So where's the next question mark? Where's the next question mark? That's it? 18, right? So this goes up in numbers of 4. What do you think? You know, people actually try to do this 10 by 10, and it's very, very hard. It's very, very hard to find. So this took ages to answer this question. What do you think is the answer here? Does it work or doesn't it work? Does it work or doesn't it work? I don't hear it. Nobody's sure. Well, actually, for ages, people thought this doesn't work, that doesn't work, that doesn't work. But then somebody figured it out. So in 1959, people figured out that everything else works. So it only doesn't work for 2, it doesn't work for 6, but for all other numbers it works. This was probably the first time that the sudoku kind of puzzle made it to the New York Times. Of course, it's there now every day, right? But the first time you actually see these kind of squares in the New York Times is in 1959. All right. Now, who cares, right? Well, there's people like me who care, right? I care regardless, right? But I'll just show you a picture. And that's actually a Latin square. That's a Latin square. So somebody has figured out that you can do some good experiments with these things. So, for example, you've got one sort of kind of tree. And you want to try different kind of fertilizers with it, right? So maybe you've got 5 different fertilizers. Now, what you can do is you can kind of do a patch here, and a patch there, and a patch there, and a patch there. And you put first kind of fertilizer here, the second kind of fertilizer here, then there, and here. And you just let it grow and see what happens, right? But then there's always kind of a couple of things that you don't really know how to take into account. So first, there might be different sort of drainage in the soil here to what's over here, or that there might be, that something grew here that didn't grow there, which may influence what's happening. So you're really interested in the fertilizer, but there's all sorts of other factors that you can't control that also kind of muck around with what's happening here. So the first idea that you might want to come up with is that where you want to test it, you kind of chop into a 5x5 grid, right? And then you do first kind of fertilizer, second kind of fertilizer, third kind of fertilizer, fourth kind of fertilizer. And then the first kind of fertilizer you put there again, and kind of put it in a Latin square pattern. And then you can average over wherever fertilizer number 1 is, and then you average over wherever fertilizer 2 is, and that kind of averages out the effects of these things that you don't really know about much. And you can kind of pin this down quite nicely. And you can also use like these interlaced squares in more complicated experiments. So this is kind of the simplest possible one, right? So just one Latin square basically. But you can also find these sort of patterns here where there's actually superimposed things happening. So maybe 5 different kinds of trees and 5 different fertilizers, and you do it in a square like this and try to get something out of it. Okay. Now, if there's 2 squares that kind of fit in like this, maybe there's 3 squares that fit in like this, in the sense that if you take any 2 of them, they merge. And that's actually possible. So I've shown you, this is a 4 times 4 here, and there's a green square, a red square, a blue square. And if you just focus on the green and the red, they mesh together in the special way that we talked about before. If you focus on the green and the blue, they mesh together. And if you focus on the red and the blue, they also mesh together like this. And these sorts of things are kind of getting very, very special. Right? I mean, it's very hard to make these up. You know, when you look at numbers there, how many ways you can do this, very, very hard. And you could use this sort of thing for an experimental design. Now here comes a test to wake you up. Okay? So it's another aerial photo here. It's an aerial photo. Is this a simple test, or is this a complicated test? Okay, simple test was just kind of one Latin square, one square. A complicated test is a couple of these different ones on top of each other. Is this a complicated test, or is it a simple test? It's a simple test. Why is it a simple test? That's right, 6 by 6, remember 6 by 6 is not possible, right? So 6 by 6 is not possible, so this is just a simple test again. Okay, now if you've got lots of these, you can actually do something that mathematicians get very excited about. I'm not going to tell you exactly how it works, it's just how you get these sorts of things. So that thing here somehow corresponds to this. Those 2 that we've looked at before somehow correspond to this. And just this one little thing that's, basically only one of them corresponds to this. Now how? I won't tell you, it's a bit complicated. Let's try to tell you what these things are. These things are perfect universes. Okay, so just to tell you in what sense these are perfect, they're actually a lot better than the universe that we live in. Okay, it goes like this. If you've got 2 points in space like this, right, you can always kind of take one line that passes through both of them. Those are 2 points determine one line, okay? And if you're in a plane, and if you put 2 lines, usually 2 lines intersect in exactly 1 point. But not always, right? When don't they intersect in a point? When they're parallel, right? So our universe is not parallel in the sense that if you take 2 lines, sometimes they don't intersect in a point. Most of the time they do, sometimes they don't. Okay. Now, these things are similar. So we've got infinitely many points in our universe. These universes have only a couple of points. So this one has 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points in there. It's also got lines. There's one line. 1, 2, 3. There's another line. 1, 2, 3. There's a third line. So there's one line going this way. Second line going this way. Third line going this way. There's another line going that way. There's another line going this way. And there's another line going this way. And it's really, the lines are really just the points here. Right, so it consists of 3 points. The second line consists of 3 points. There's actually one more line. What's the 7th line? Oh yeah, that's right. So it's actually this one here, that one, and that one. So 7 lines and 7 points. Now you can take any 2 points, like this one here and that one. And there's exactly one line that connects them. So that one is one line that connects them. This one and that one line that connects them. But also, if you take any two lines, they intersect in a unique point. There's no parallel lines in here. So they're actually really, really nice. Right? So if you take this line and that line, they intersect in this point, or this line and that line, they intersect in this point, and so on. You go back, they get really, really complicated. Right. We want to go back. We want to go there. Now they get really, really complicated, but basically they all have these properties. And mathematicians are very excited about these things. Other people are very excited about them. So you use these sorts of things for arranging things in neat ways. For example, nice compact codes to encode things. All sorts of applications for these things. They're called finite projective planes. Perfect universes from sudoku. Okay, here's a bit of a timeline. We've got Euler with his puzzle. Then in 1956, somebody considered one step up from sudoku squares, and they actually chopped his designs into smaller areas, not square areas, but other kind of shaped areas. So in every area here you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You've got it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in every row, in every column. And you get sudoku puzzles like this these days too. Then in 1977, people started considering these Latin squares that are bleeded out like this, under which conditions can you find unique solutions. And then in 1979, that's where the first sudoku puzzles come up. That's actually the first 2 sudoku puzzles ever. They're very easy. And well, it's a little bit different. I mean, they actually give you extra hints here, right? So, like in these positions here, he says 6, 4, 6, 7, and 8. They're somehow there, so it gives you kind of an extra hint. Originally, they were kind of known under the name number plays, and was really in specialized puzzle magazines that you would find them. Then they got exported to Japan. In Japan, they were fairly popular. But then they got really popular when somebody from England discovered in Japan, wrote a computer program and sold them to the Times, I think, in the UK. And once it started appearing there, it really took off. But there's kind of all sorts of mathematics that kind of leads up to exactly what this is. And I mean, you can kind of set it in mathematical language what it is all about. Okay, now, at this stage, you're much better prepared for the World Championship than these guys ever were. Right? Okay, so let's have a quick look at what they actually have to do at the World Championship. There was one in Philadelphia last year, and there's one coming up later in the year in Hungary. It's going to be as part of the World Puzzle Championship. And last year they had this Olympic theme. So I'll just show you. This is puzzles from the final. So what you've got on your seats there, that was actually the first puzzle in the final. This was supposed to be a dead easy one for these people. So it probably takes them less than a minute to do this, right? So you'll find it's not that easy. So basically it's supposed to be all simple method, nothing complicated, no X-wings or no swordfishes or anything like this. It's all kind of basic techniques, right? Basic techniques. Give it a try, see how hard you find this. If you can't do this, maybe feed it into that Sudoku wiki and let it walk you through the solutions. It's actually very instructive. You can actually learn Sudoku solving with that program that I showed you before. It's really, really good. So this is kind of a basic one, and basically it's for speed, right? It's a 100-meter race. That's the equivalent of a 100-meter race. So it's very easy. You're supposed to get through this very, very quickly. Okay, so what's the second one? That's the final, right? So it's a final. So the second one is this one here, which looks very different, right? So it's basically filling, you don't have anything filled in here. Those numbers actually don't have anything to do with digits. They just tell you that in this region, which is kind of extra to usual, everything has to add up to 46, right? Everything in here has to add up to 10, 30. Then you have to fill in all the numbers. All 81 numbers are missing here, and the only thing you know, well, it's the usual Sudoku rules. One digit in every digit in every column, every row, every box. In addition, these sums here. And there's another one here. You actually have all 10 digits in here. The 0 goes in here too. Then something, so there have to be consecutive numbers if they're right next to each other, and if there's none of these bold strokes in between, it can't be consecutive numbers. This is an ordinary one again. It's kind of one step up, harder than the first one. Ordinary classic Sudoku puzzle. You can actually download this. So if you Google 5th World Sudoku Championship, you can download all these puzzles and try to solve them. just one cell. This is kind of an interesting one. It's actually got lots and lots of different solutions. But all of these solutions have one number in common. Or just one number, right? So there's one number in here that's forced. All the other ones are kind of a bit open, right? So, you know, this is a completely different sort of puzzle. In this one here, the digits also have to be on diagonal. In this one here, it gets very weird, right? We've kind of got these digital things. So this one here, for example, could stand for a 0, could also stand for a 3. Well, that's about it, right? So, you know, so you get giving hints like this. And of course, the usual Sudoku rules have to apply somehow. And then 9, you've got these different sorts of areas. So instead of having squares in which all the digits have to be present, it's these skew regions. And then the 10th one is just a really awful classical one, which basically takes forever to do. Right? Okay, the last thing I want to do is I want you to meet Sarah. Sarah is the representative for Australia on the World Championship. She was there last year. She's actually a mathematician. She is a biostatistician, works at the University of Pennsylvania. She's a professor there. And she's very good at this sort of stuff. She grew up in Sydney, but has been living in America for quite a while. She's married there. And, you know, I actually talked to her last year with the Rubik's Cube talk. We actually had the world champion here, the speed solver, who's from Melbourne, but since she's in Philadelphia, I just did a Skype thing with her. It was kind of a long thing. So just a little bit of introduction. She talks about the final here. Okay, so let's let her talk about the final. The finals, I had a look at those 10 puzzles they had there. I just give you the 10 puzzles and then you solve as many as you can in a short time? No.
The finals is really interesting. The top 4 only compete in the finals. Complete with headphones, so you cannot hear. You get actually little headphone earbuds that has UN babble on it, so just random background noise. And then you have industrial headphones over the top, so you can't hear anything outside of that.
Okay.
But then you get the final 4 get given the first puzzle, and when they think they've solved that, they pass it over to someone sitting beside them who checks it. If there's and they can go on to the next puzzle, the second one in order. If they have a mistake, they have a 1-minute penalty where they cannot do a thing, and they've got to go back to that puzzle they made the mistake on and get it correct before they're allowed to continue. So it's actually a sequence. There's also a handicap. So the person who was coming first out of all the rounds gets to start first. And then based on how many points behind them the next person was, how long they have to wait before they start. And there's a 1-hour maximum time.
Right. And I mean, when you actually talk to the different people, I mean, are there some that are just really outstanding? I mean, could be you know?
Honestly, the guy who's won the last couple of years does about 5 hours of puzzles a day. Yeah.
So is he professional?
Yes, he's a professional puzzle solver. He's from Hungary, and he...
Well, anyway, so he told me lots of interesting things. So, for example, this guy, somebody pays him to do Sudokus every day. It's not bad. It's a 5-hour day, but you have to do 5 hours of Sudokus every day. But it's not only Sudokus, as you can see, in these World Championships, they actually had like to deal with 40 different puzzles, which she found actually quite challenging. So she actually came she was very good at the classical Sudoku and came something like 13th or so. But there were like gazillions of other ones that you only get told about like 2 weeks before the championship, and that's just kind of just to give you an idea. There's lots and lots of different ones that they have to deal with. And if you go to this website, you can download exams, you can try and solve them. It's actually all quite interesting. And so you try to do the 10 in the final by yourself, and like the main guy, he did them in 1 hour. And this is like one guy who, you know, it's really good. For some of them, it takes you 7 minutes to put down the first number, right? And these are people who do this 5 hours a day, so it's pretty hard stuff. Anyway, actually, one of the questions I also asked was what Simon mentioned at the beginning. What about doing this blindfolded? Well, she doesn't know anybody who does this blindfolded, which kind of surprised me, you know, because I mean, the chess guys who are playing 100 simultaneous games, they should be able to do this. Anyway, so if you like some of this stuff here, you probably also like the files app. You probably also like some of the other things that Marty and I. This is Marty over there, so just in case you haven't met him yet, there in the corner is hiding. That's Marty and me, and we write columns in the Age all the time. So if you go to that website up here, you get links to all of them. You can sign up for fun articles about mathematics. We did one in 2007 on sudoku. I'm going to do another one about Sarah later on in the year when the World Championships are on. But apart from that, I think that's all I wanted to tell you about sudoku, and that's pretty much all I know about sudoku. But you can ask questions anyway. I mean, I read lots of stuff and I've done quite a few now, so I'm pretty good. Okay, thanks a lot for coming, and hope we'll see you again next year. Thanks.
Marty, if you could just stand up. Just one final round of applause for 4 brilliant lectures this year. Thank you, Marty. Also to Melbourne Museum for their generosity in sponsoring and supporting these events. They've already indicated that they wish to come back. I think I heard you say that they might come back and do it again. So there'll be another series. Keep an eye on the MAV website for 2012 series.
Right, so if anybody has got a question, I'll still be here for a while and just come out and talk to me. And also, I mean, we're probably going to have some coffee and stuff here in the cafe, so if anybody wants to tag along, you're welcome. All right. Do some sudokus. Right.
If you've got an evaluation, I'd like it.